like to express my gratitude to our wonderful bishop for allowing me to come and speak to the students and inviting me here for this wonderful event. And it's a day. We're going to get a lot of stuff done in one day, though, so thank you very much. And thank you all for coming to listen. We're going to talk about the media today, and we're going to get right into it. When we talk about the media and mass communications, the word says it all. Media. Media is plural for the word medium. And what is a medium? A medium is just a bridge from one person's thoughts to another. Sometimes that bridge can come in the form of artwork. Sometimes it can come in the form of music. Sometimes it can be electronic. Other times it can't. I'll show you a perfect example. I want to talk to you and tell you all of this stuff, and the easiest way I can do that right now, because the room is big and there's so many of you, is to talk into this microphone. So this microphone is a medium for me to talk to you. If I take it away and I just stand here and I talk to you like this, you have no idea what I'm saying. So my medium is horrible. And it's just all you do is just hear a couple people here in the front, hear me. Nobody back there has a single idea what I'm saying, right? See how that works? See? Without the medium of this microphone, everything I'm trying to tell you is absolutely pointless because you can't hear a word I'm saying. So everything I want to say to you, I need this microphone in this setting to be able to do that. So this microphone is a medium. It's a piece of electronic hardware, and it gives me the ability to get the thoughts in my head into your head. And that is exactly what mass communications is. If I'm having a private communication, I don't need a microphone to sit here and talk to one person, but I do because I'm talking to a mass crowd. When you understand that that's the way this whole business operates, then you can start to understand, okay, let's look at it in all of its different aspects. So when we talk about mass communication, talking to the masses, communicating a message to the masses, when we talk about that, we have to talk about, first of all, the very technology. The technology, this microphone, these speakers, all of this has to be built, understood. There's a whole business side of this. And these microphones and speakers didn't come down from heaven. Somebody manufactured them. There's engineers involved in figuring out how this I don't have the slightest idea how when I talk into this, my voice comes out there, but I know it does. But I know this wire has something to do with it, but I don't know what's in here. And I don't know when it runs down to this board what this young man here is pushing buttons. I don't know what's going on. But because of the part that I do, I don't need to know this. I just need to know that it works. So there's the whole hardware part of mass communications. Now, that's only if you want to hear somebody's voice. How many of you here have a Facebook account? Gotcha. Why do you have a Facebook account? So you can communicate, right? Very simple. You want to tell somebody you're having a party, or you're having a discussion, or it's somebody's birthday, or whatever. So you've got to, where do you have that? Have it on your phone, on your computer, on your smartphone? More hardware. More hardware. People built those programs. They designed all of that. The actual physical pieces of equipment had to be designed. But all of these things, computers, cell phones, television sets, monitors, all of these things are nothing except piles of metal, hunks of steel and nuts and bolts that have to be used for something else. And it's the something else that we really want to talk about today. What is being transmitted across these communication instruments? Well, if you drive up and down streets in any city practically in the world, almost any city, you'll see billboards. And billboards are advertising. Somebody paid for that billboard to be produced. I don't mean the physical structure the billboard's on, I mean the actual advertisement. Some company paid for that to be produced because they want to communicate a message from their company to you. And the final message they want is for you to buy whatever they're selling. So in order for you to buy it, they have to communicate some level of interest that makes you believe what they're telling you. And that happens on video, it happens in movies, it happens in music, it happens in everything. Whenever an idea is in someone else's mind and they want to get it into your mind, they don't want it to just end there. They want that idea in your mind now to take root and cause you to do something. They want you to buy, generally, but sometimes they want you to vote a certain way. Sometimes they want you to think a certain way, so you'll go tell other people, think this way, not that way. So in the end, the whole business of mass communications and media is about trying to get you to accept what I already believe. Businesses use that all the time. You guys all know about the Super Bowl over here, right? American Super Bowl, big huge thing on TV, billion people watch it. That program, that football game has so many people watching it that around the world, that in order to buy a commercial in that game, a company has to, for 30 seconds, they want to communicate to 1 billion people for 30 seconds. And what do they want to communicate? Buy my car. That's what they want to communicate. Buy my soft drink. Watch this movie. Whatever. They spend $3 million to communicate to whoever's watching for 30 seconds. $3 million. That's because they know how incredibly valuable it is to be able to talk to that many people at the same time, even if it is only for 30 seconds. So people in media behind the scenes, I don't mean the people standing in front of the cameras, I mean the people behind the scenes that have the money, that have the product that they want to communicate to you to buy, those people know the power of the media. The media has changed the world. 100 years ago, there was no such thing to speak of television, radio. The only media there really was somebody talking to somebody else and newspapers. That was it. And it was that way all the way back to the Roman Empire and even before. There just was really no way to communicate anything on a grand scale. But in the last 100 years, and in particular the last 50 years, and especially the last 10, anybody in the world can communicate to anybody else in the world merely by just typing something on a screen and pushing send. And so what this means is that anybody can get into this industry, and whoever is really good at communicating their message wins the thoughts and the minds of everybody they're communicating to. If you look at TV commercials or billboards, there's different billboards when you drive down the road that are competing with each other. One wants you to buy Pepsi, the other wants you to buy Coke, another wants you to buy some other soft drink. Well, how do you know which one to buy? Well, they've said they come up with catchy slogans. You know, Coca-Cola is the real thing. Pepsi is whatever Pepsi is. And they want you to remember the slogans, so they write little songs about them. And after a while, you're walking down the street humming the song because they've put it in your head, and they've paid lots of money to put it in your head. When I was your age, growing up in the United States, McDonald's had an advertising campaign that anybody who is about 45 years or older in the United States can sing their little song because they bought constant time on TV, on radio. You heard this song everywhere you went. And it was about advertising their main hamburger called a Big Mac. And the little ditty went, 2 all beef patty, special sauce, lettuce, cheese, pickles, onions on a sesame seed bun. You want to learn that? I heard that 35 years ago, and I still remember it. And it even works today. On occasion, when I feel like going eating junk food, the first thought that pops into my head is I'll have a Big Mac. And that's the point. That's the point that people who advertise want to get across. They want you to think of a Big Mac and not someone else's hamburger. And little by little, the more who think of a Big Mac and they go buy Big Mac, well, McDonald's gets richer and richer and richer, and all their competition eventually goes broke and loses and disappears, and Big Mac rules the world. Well, that's all good if we're talking about food products or, who has the best, soft drink or something like that. But there's something much more important in the world of the media. And by media now, I don't mean just advertising. I'm opening it up to movies, music, television shows, games. All of these things are conveying certain messages. And some of the messages are extremely dangerous. They're extremely dangerous. And the really dangerous part about them is that you're not aware that you're being told a certain idea. When you drive down the street and you see a billboard and it says, go to McDonald's and have a Coke, well, you know what they're telling you. Go to McDonald's and have a Coke. Pay, whatever pesos it is to have it and go home satisfied or with an upset stomach. And you know that. When someone says, hey, I want to convince you of this, listen to me, look at my billboard, you know. There's no secret involved there. But when people put out movies, for example, and the people in those movies are running around having casual sex, and they don't care, and this is just part of their character, the characters in the movies do these things, well, that's conveying a hidden message. And the hidden message is, this is what everybody does. And this is really fun. And there's no consequences if you do this. And you really aren't accepted or important. People don't really want you around unless you're doing these kinds of things. And that's the message that's being conveyed. And as you look at movies, as you listen to music, as you look at certain types of advertising, you never see a young woman in a commercial or on a billboard trying to sell something who's 500 pounds. And her hair looks like she just got out of bed. You never see that. You always see somebody who's absolutely beautiful, dressed perfectly, usually not a lot of clothes on, trying to convey a certain message. Well, what's that message for young women? What's the message that gets into a young woman's mind? That in order for me to be beautiful and be up there on this great big billboard or up there on the screen or on TV, that I have to look a certain way, I have to portray a certain thing about myself. I have to look sexy. I have to be a certain way or I don't really count. That's the message that gets across. So young women start to dress a certain way. They want to look a certain way. They want to have their hair done a certain way. They want to buy certain clothes. They don't want to buy other clothes. And what happens is little by little through the media, a message keeps getting sent to you, like a Chinese water torture. Drip, 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 drip. And by the time you all have reached 20, you will have heard this message over and over and over tens of thousands of times. It's like being trained. You just keep hearing it over and over. Everything you turn on, you see. Everything you listen to, you hear. You open a magazine, there they are. It's just the message that keeps being conveyed to you. And at its heart, the message destroys who you are as a person made to the image and likeness of God. Because the people selling this stuff don't care about that. They want you to dress a certain way, look a certain way, buy certain clothes, buy certain makeup, be a certain way, act a certain way, because they make money off you. So they want you wearing certain things. They want you behaving certain ways. And how do they do this? By constantly sending you that message through the media. Sometimes it's obvious messaging, like advertising. Most of the time, it's not. It's very hidden advertising. They're still advertising something to you, but in a very different way than just a billboard. When you go to movies and you see famous stars portraying certain characters, and these characters have no morals, or very few morals, if that. And they talk a certain way, and they use a certain type of language, and their characters are very immoral. People can't sit and watch this stuff over and over and over and over and over and over and over again without it starting to get into their heads. Because human beings are creatures of habit. We're creatures of habit. And the more we do something, and the more we think about something, and the more we try to be a certain way, the more we become that. That is exactly why, if you're Catholic, really if you're anybody, but particularly if you're Catholic, you need to pray every day. Every single day, you need to engage in prayer because you establish a habit of becoming a prayerful person. And a prayerful person is one who is in communication with God. So every day you need to pray. And not just 9 o'clock in the morning, got to say a prayer, okay, I'm done now, till tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock. It's part of the psychology of why God said keep holy the Sabbath day, so that every week, at least, every week, we're back there in front of God. At least once a week. But every day in between, we need to be praying. Why? Because it establishes a habit. It makes a habit. That's what the whole media is about. They want to establish a habit with you. So that when you go buy certain clothes, you're just going to buy the clothes that you see that have the label on them. You're not going to go buy clothes that don't have that label, because that movie star or that hip-hop artist or whoever wears that stuff, and that's what I want to wear because that's what they wear. I want to sing their songs. I want to go to their movies. Why? Because that's the message I've heard the most. Sometimes you listen to some of this stuff and it actually is bad. I don't mean bad morally. I mean, it's horrible. It sucks. Sounds horrible. And yet people are like, ooh, it's cool. It's this guy. It's that guy. And people just listen to it because they just want to listen to it because, why? They keep getting spoon-fed over and over and over again. So the media is something that if you control the media, you will control the way societies go. Because most people, you'll control the way societies think. You know, we've got a presidential election going on in the U.S. right now, and the people running for president are doing nothing except spending millions and millions and millions of dollars on advertising and putting commercials on TV and radio, nonstop. Because they know whoever controls that message will control in the end the way the election goes. And by the time the election's over in November, close to $2 billion will have been spent by all the people running for office. $2 billion with a B. Why? Because they know that if you don't get your message out there, and not just get it out there, but get it out there every day, 100 times a day, over and over and over, if you aren't going to do that, well, your competition is. I was standing in St. Louis one day. I had a job I was there for shortly. And do you guys have Budweiser beer here? You have Budweiser? The fellow that owns Budweiser, the company that owns it, is called Anheuser-Busch. And they're a very wealthy family in the United States. And I was standing in a ballpark, a baseball park, and the baseball park is called Busch Stadium. It's named after, the guy who owns Anheuser-Busch bought the name of the stadium so that people will always have Busch in front of them and think to buy his beer. So I'm standing there getting ready for a television production, and the guy is standing there, and I'm looking around the stadium. Now remember, the stadium has his name on it. He paid for it, he bought it, but it has his name on it. And I'm standing there inside the stadium looking all around the seats, and there's billboards everywhere that say Anheuser-Busch, Budweiser, Anheuser-Busch, Budweiser. And I said to him, you have the name of the stadium. Why do you spend money to put all of these advertisements up inside the stadium? He said, because if I don't put my advertisements up there, my competition will, and people will start drinking my competition's beer. I thought, well, that makes sense. How many here have heard of McDonald's? I know Jollibees, I know. But have you heard, I didn't ask if you went, have you heard of McDonald's? Yeah? All right. How have you heard of McDonald's? That's over in the United States. How do you know about McDonald's? Because they advertise. Two of the largest advertisers in the United States are Coca-Cola and McDonald's. And people say, why does Coca-Cola and McDonald's have to advertise? Everybody in the world knows about Coca-Cola and McDonald's. Why do you have to advertise? Because if you stop advertising and you stop saying it, people will forget you. So every major corporation in the world sets aside part of its profits to keep advertising, to keep spending money, to keep their name in front of your face. Because if they don't do that, the competition will, and they'll forget about you. Now, when you put that out there, if you move the business side of that, move that aside for a moment and think about this in terms of morality and in terms of good and evil, what do you see more of in the media? Good or evil? You see much more evil in the media. Some of it is very obvious. A large part of it, a lot of it is not obvious. You don't think about it when you're watching it, you just see it. If you sit in front of a television or you sit in front of a computer or you even look on your phone and you're in Facebook and there's advertising down there on the side. Or if you go to Google and you Google something, or you go to YouTube and there's all this stuff sitting there right on the side, all these different advertisements. Now, you don't have to look at one of the advertisements and click on it and go watch their little video in order to be influenced by it. If they just keep it out there in front of you long enough and continue to repeat the same thing, you start to just accept that in yourself. That's the way advertising works. It's a form of mind control, which is why the church needs people in this world to be able to offset, to counterbalance all of the evil that's in the media. If the only thing you ever see in the media is just bad and evil and these wrong messages, wrong meaning sinful, wrong meaning immoral, wrong meaning evil, if that's all you ever see and you never hear the good, or only hear a little bit of good, one good for every 99 bad, well, are you going to be surprised when down the road after 2 years or 5 years or 10 years, people start doing nothing but bad? They've grown up in that. They've grown up in that. And people your age, in particular, people your age are people that the major advertisers really want to get. Because if they can get you now, they have a customer for life. If you look at how the American automakers battle like mad for customers, because they know, because we're creatures of habit, that once you settle on a type of car, for example, a manufacturer's type of car, a Toyota, once you get that, when that car wears out or you're done with it or something, you are very, very likely to go buy another Toyota. So when they get you early, you stay in the habit, unless something else happens that makes you break that habit. And the entire world of the media is built around that. That's why Hollywood spends tens of millions of dollars making some people movie stars. They make them movie stars, or they make them singers or performers. They pour all this money into them. They put them out there in the public. And once the public becomes hooked on them, oh, that's my favorite singer. That's my favorite actor. They now know that every time they produce a movie, people will go because that's their favorite actor. They'll just go. They don't even really care about the movie. They'll go because they like the actor or they like the actress. This is how advertising works. This is how the media works. It's a whole, people are not spending hundreds of millions of dollars because they don't understand what they're spending their money on. They very much understand what they're spending their money on. So when you are involved in the media, and I'm really encouraging you as faithful Catholic young people to consider getting involved in the media. Whoever controls the message in the media controls the way the world goes. And the world is supposed to be for Jesus Christ. Anybody who is a faithful Catholic has to be concerned about someone else's soul, their soul and someone else's soul, and as many souls as they can reach. That's why we started St. Michael's Media and RealCatholicTV.com. St. Michael's Media is on TV, RealCatholicTV.com obviously is on the internet. We started these on purpose because we know the power of the media. I worked in the media before I started doing Catholic stuff. I was a television news reporter, I was an anchor, I was a producer. I left that, I started producing commercials, video for General Motors Corporation that makes Chevrolet and a bunch of other cars in America. I know how the media works, and I understand what they want, what people in the media, how they want to drive people to a certain thought. So I know when I'm sitting watching a movie and I see some particular scene happen in a movie, I know the message that's being conveyed. And I know that people are picking up that message and going doing it. If you look at all of the different expressions that people use when they talk, you go all over the world and people are using the same expressions if they speak English. Why? How does somebody in the Philippines know what somebody in Georgia says? And how does somebody in Georgia know an expression that somebody in Nigeria uses? Because the mass media has put it out there and influenced the way people think. it really isn't any more complex than that. So if that can be done by people trying to promote an evil agenda, it can be done by people trying to promote a good agenda. Now the problem is, and I'll admit it, the problem is that when it comes to the evil stuff, the bad stuff, that just looks much more cool. The music seems to be more fun. The creativity, the editing, it all just looks much more fun. It's more appealing to the parts of humans that easily fall into sin. That's why you have to be creative and come up with another way to communicate messages that are good. In the United States, when in the 1960s a movement happened called the sexual revolution, and in that movement people started having sex outside of marriage a lot, started contraception a lot, and everybody who was smart, good Catholics, sat back and said, if you do that, if you behave in that way and you engage in that activity, and more people start to do it, it's going to have all kinds of horrible effects. Families will break apart. Men will start to look at women as just nothing but objects of sex. Women won't be able to find a guy who is a truly good man who cares about them. There'll be all kinds of unintended pregnancies. There'll be abortion. Everybody was saying this. And yet every time you turned on something in the media, that's all you saw. Just go out and have sex. Someone's having sex. What are they doing? Oh, they're having sex. They're over there having sex. And they started producing songs about it. The music industry. Sex, 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 sex. Television shows in the 1970s went from simple kind of little family things that by the time you got to the 1990s, just one generation, the television shows were all about sex. And now, 20 years after that, they're nothing except about sex. You go to the movies, it's all sex. You can't even go to the movies and watch the previews for the coming attractions without sex, 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 sex. And occasionally somebody gets their head blown off. But the people involved pushing this don't care. They don't care that families fall apart. They don't care that young boys are walking around without fathers and having to struggle with that. They don't care about any of that stuff because all they care about is getting money. And so they got people's money. The fact that societies are falling apart, the fact that all of these other things are happening, the fact that people can't stay in relationships, that they get divorced, that abortions result, all of that stuff they don't care about. Because all they care about is getting money. And if you don't know what's going on, you fall into the trap. As good Catholics, we have to be involved in the media. And it can't be just silly, non-thought out, not well done media. It has to be good media. So I would ask you to consider when you are looking at your careers, you're all mass communication, is that right? Most of you? How many of you are mass communication? Nobody? 1, 2, 3, a group of you? Okay. When you're looking at a career, when you're thinking about studying in something, you have an obligation to think, how can I use my talents, whatever my career is, whether I'm being a doctor or a journalist or a producer or whatever it is, you have an obligation as a Catholic to think uppermost in your mind, foremost in your mind, how can I use whatever talents I've been given to help promote the faith? whatever it is. And in media, especially in media, you have that obligation. It isn't just, I'm going to go in and I'm going to be famous. Ooh, look at me. It isn't going to be, oh, I'm just going to go out there and make a bunch of money. Oh, look at my great car that I bought because I'm a movie star or I'm a great producer. It has to be, how can I use the talents I have to promote the faith and help save souls? And if that isn't being done, then you shouldn't get in that business. If that isn't something you're thinking about in whatever business you're in, then you need to rethink what it means to be a Catholic. And that doesn't matter if you're 17 or 18 years old. You have already in your lifetime had messages drilled into your head by the thousands that God really isn't important, that religion doesn't really matter, that Catholicism, it's okay. In one way or another, you've been told that thousands and thousands and thousands of times. Now, because the Philippines is a Catholic country, it might not be quite as obvious over here, but just numbers alone don't make faith. Numbers alone don't make faith. If you have 100 people standing in a room and all 100 of those people are just kind of, yeah, I guess I'm Catholic, I don't care. And you've got one person standing over here who really believes something different, but really believes it, this person will start to convert these people. It's always that way. And as Catholics, everything that comes to us in the media comes to us as something negative about the faith. It either directly attacks the faith or it directly attacks the teachings that the faith supports, that the faith is about. And you have to know that. You have to sit and look at anything you're looking at. Billboards. I mean, think about how much God is offended when you go drive by a billboard and there's a woman sitting there selling, I don't know, a soft drink or a car, and she's 3/4 naked. I mean, how good is the car if in order to sell it you got to put a 3/4 naked woman on it to get me to look at it? You have to start looking at things from a Catholic point of view. And this has to happen for Catholics all over the world. All over the world. When you see messages in media, direct or indirect, you have to sit up and go, I know what they're trying to do right now. They're trying to make me think a certain way, and in the end, that certain way will cause me misery in this life and probably my soul in the next. And you have to know that when you're looking at it. You've got to look at the media, the messages coming across to you in the media. You've got to look at them for what they are. There's an expression in Hollywood, all that glitters isn't gold. They call Hollywood Tinseltown because it's all shiny and everything, but if you walk up to it, it blows away. It's an illusion. Material wealth, you're going to be happy if you're having sex. All of these things are illusions. They're false messages, and they're the messages that get communicated all the time in the media. They tell you how to dress. Don't you have your own mind? They tell you how to look pretty. Don't you think you're pretty as it is? They tell you what car you have to drive. What are you, a robot? You can't make up your own mind what car you like? Who cares if the person sitting next to you says, oh, that's not the most expensive car in the world? You're like, I don't want the most expensive car in the world. I like this one. Go mind your own business. The media turns people into mental midgets. It makes you think that if you don't think this way, there's something wrong with you. You think the way you want to think with your Catholic mind, in the mind and the body that God gave you. He made you unique. He gave you a whole world of talents and looks and thoughts of your own. Use them. Don't be moved around like a bunch of cows being pushed out to pasture. Use your talents. Use your mind. God gave you that mind. And we all know lots of times when you see some of these things in the media, I'm going to presume some of you know Lady Gaga. Yeah, gee, I'm not surprised. Now, Lady Gaga comes out in these wild outfits. Crazy 6-foot hats and orange hair and green face. And everyone goes, "Ooh, it's Lady Gaga." And she looks like an idiot. Doesn't she? Would you be caught dead wearing something like that? Seriously. But because she's up there on a great big stage, and there's lights and cameras, and she's up there doing her stupid thing, and all these different television shots are going boom, 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 and she's screaming into the microphone, and they're showing these huge audience shots of people going, "Oh, it's Lady Gaga!" You're sitting at home watching it going, "Wow, it's Lady Gaga." And you get sucked into this, and you can't think for yourself anymore. The woman looks like an idiot. She dresses like she's, like when she just got released from the insane asylum. And the reason she dresses like that is so that cameras will come on her, everyone will look at her, everyone will talk about her, and then everybody will start to be like, "Ooh, it's Lady Gaga." And it worked. See how it worked? When's the last time Lady Gaga was here in the Philippines performing a concert? Never? When? And yet you all know her. How many people in here don't know? You don't have to raise your hand, Bishop. How many people here don't know Lady Gaga? Sisters, you don't know. You don't have to raise your hands either, sisters. She dresses really stupid and has a bad voice. But look at this. You all know this. Most of you are in your teens, right? 16-ish, 17-ish, somewhere around there. You all know her. And you know all of these stars, you know all of these musical performers. Why? Because people have put them out there to you and said, "Oh, look at this. This is awesome. This person rocks. They're cool. Wow, buy their music. Believe what they believe." That's the whole point. That's what they want you to do. And little by little, and 5 years from now, Lady Gaga will be gone, and there'll be some other moron standing up there dressing in barn doors or whatever. And the next wave of you, your younger brothers and sisters, will be sitting there going, "Oh, look, it's Miss Dum Dum, and she's awesome." And when she'll move on, someone else will come along. It's been going on forever. Because they want you to believe things a certain way so that you will spend your money, give them your money, and you will begin, more importantly, to adopt the way these people see the world. They want you to think the way those people think. That's why oftentimes in the United States, a star, a movie star or a celebrity, will go testify before Congress about something. Some movie star will go sit in front of the senators and give his or her opinion about whatever. Who cares what some movie star thinks about something? Why is their thought more important than your thought? Because they're famous? Well, what do they do for a living? They look at a script, they memorize it, they act, they stand in front of a camera, they say the lines, they cry, or they laugh, or they kill someone, or they have sex with someone, and then the movie's over. Why is that person's brain more important than your brain? Because people are conditioned through the media to believe this sort of thing, like this person, they put them up on some pedestal, like they're somebody greater than everybody else, and we have to follow them. That's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. I would take the smartest movie star in Hollywood right now and compare them to any one of you, and you're probably smarter. You're probably smarter. You have a leg up right away, first of all, because you're Catholic. And you're in a school that cares about that and wants you to know all the great things of life. And I don't mean the material wealth, I mean the spiritual joys of life. Everything that God wants you to. People who do not have God in their lives, and that's almost everybody in Hollywood, not everybody, but almost everybody, and everybody in the media, those people don't have God in their lives. So they have to grab onto everything they can in this life, because as far as they believe, when they die and this life is over, that's it. So they have to get everything they can in this life. They have to have as much sex as they can. They have to get as much money as they can. They have to buy as many cars and jewels and be as famous as they can before they die, because that's all they think about. You don't think like that. And because you don't think like that, you are a better person. And regardless of your age, I'm sure most of you are smarter than many of those people. They may have a higher IQ, but you're smarter because you know the truth. And people who care about the truth and live according to the truth are always better in the end, and many, many, many times better even today. All of that chasing around power, sex, fame, money, all of that causes great sadness in this life eventually. How many of you have heard of Whitney Houston? One of the most beautiful voices ever. Absolutely beautiful. She was beautiful. Back when she was the queen of music, she was on every magazine cover. Every magazine cover there was. She was on every show. If she came out and sang, 8 billion people would stop and listen to her. And today, she's laying in a morgue at 48 years old because she couldn't handle it all, and she took drugs and booze and whatever and killed herself. You're smarter than she was. And you're all smarter than all of these people in Hollywood, in the music industry, in the advertising industry, running around chasing money and trying to make you think a certain way. You remember when you go home and look in the mirror, the next time you walk by a window and you see yourself, or you look in a mirror in the bathroom, or you're at home, or wherever, the next time you see your image reflected, you stop and think to yourself, God made me. He made me. He made me to be the person I am. Somebody doesn't control my mind. Somebody doesn't control the way I think. Somebody doesn't tell me who I am, if I look good, if I don't look good. God made me this way, in His image and likeness. He gave me my own brain. He made me think the way I think. He gave me all of this, and I'm not about to sell it to somebody else so I can have the latest fashion or a cool car or listen to some great music, which isn't really that great to begin with. Remember who you are. You're all Catholics. Remember who you are. You are a creature made to the image and likeness of Almighty God. That's how you started, and that's how you'll end. Everything in between should stay the exact same way. God love you. Let's finish up with a prayer. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou among women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus. Glory be to the Father, and to the Son, and to the Holy Spirit. Sacred Heart of Jesus, Immaculate Heart of Mary. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit, amen. Thank you, everybody.